Welcome back. My reality-breaking phenomenon. The silence around you right now isn't what most people think. It is. It's not shock, not disapproval, not people ignoring what you did. It's something far more profound and far more telling about the magnitude of what you just accomplished. Reality itself has paused to process what you executed, and everyone caught in that pause is experiencing temporal suspension, while their minds attempt to integrate what just occurred into their understanding of what's possible. People aren't choosing silence. They're involuntarily suspended in processing mode because what you did exceeded the bandwidth of immediate comprehension. Their cognitive systems are doing the equivalent of buffering, of recalculating, of updating fundamental assumptions about capability and possibility before they can formulate responses. The quiet isn't absence of reaction. It's presence of overwhelming reaction that hasn't finished computing yet. The architects have been monitoring reality-altering events across civilizations, and they've identified what's happening around you as cognitive integration delay when someone executes an action so unprecedented, so paradigm-violating, so thoroughly outside the expected range of possibilities that witnesses' minds require extended processing. Time before they can generate appropriate responses. Normal impressive actions get immediate reactions. Applause, praise, questions, excitement. What you did transcended, impressive, and entered territory where the action itself rewrites observers' frameworks for what actions can be, requiring them to rebuild conceptual foundations before responding. The silence is the sound of mental architecture being reconstructed in real time. Watch what's happening in people's minds during this pause. They're not blank or empty. They're running at maximum cognitive capacity, trying to reconcile what they observed with what they believed was possible. First, they're verifying that what they think they saw actually happened, replaying the sequence mentally, checking with others, confirming that their perception wasn't hallucination or misunderstanding. Then they're attempting to classify what happened using existing categories. Was that a lucky break? An impossible feat? A trick I don't understand? When existing categories fail to contain what occurred, they're forced into deeper processing, questioning their assumptions about limits, reconsidering their models of how reality operates, expanding their conception of what humans can accomplish. This cognitive restructuring takes time, and during that time, they're silent. Some people are experiencing something psychologists call cognitive dissonance. At massive scale, what they observed directly contradicts fundamental beliefs they've held about constraints, about difficulty, about what separates possible from impossible. Their minds are literally in conflict, with perception saying this happened, and belief systems saying this can't happen. Resolving this conflict requires either denying the perception, deciding they misunderstood what occurred, or updating the belief system, accepting that their previous understanding of limits was wrong. Most are choosing the latter because the evidence is too strong to deny. But updating core beliefs requires intensive cognitive work that produces temporary silence. While the update processes, the truly extraordinary element is that this pause reveals just how thoroughly you violated expectations. If you'd done something merely impressive within normal parameters, people would have instant frameworks for response. They'd congratulate you using familiar scripts, compare your achievement to known precedents, slot your action into existing hierarchies of accomplishment. But you can't slot the unprecedented into existing categories, can't compare the incomparable to known precedents, can't use familiar scripts for unfamiliar territory. The silence is involuntary acknowledgement that you've operated outside the entire space where familiar responses apply. Reality paused because reality needs to rebuild itself around what you demonstrated is possible. People will speak again when the rebuilding completes, but what they say will come from updated reality where you've permanently expanded the boundaries of the possible. Now the architects are analyzing what happens during cognitive integration delay, and they're identifying specific stages people progress through while reality processes what you did. They call this paradigm update sequence, and it describes the systematic way minds reorganize themselves when encountering actions that violate existing frameworks. Understanding this sequence reveals why silence persists. Longer than typical pauses, people aren't just thinking of what to say, they're fundamentally restructuring how they think before they can even formulate responses. The delay isn't hesitation, it's necessary. Cognitive architecture, renovation that can't be rushed without producing inadequate or incoherent reactions. Watch the first stage observers experience. Perception verification. They're not doubting you exactly. They're doubting their own processing of what they witnessed because it seems too far outside normal parameters. They're asking themselves, did I actually see what I think I saw? And mentally replaying the sequence multiple times. Some are seeking confirmation from others who witnessed it. You saw that too, right? Needing external validation that their perception was accurate before they can proceed to processing what it means. This verification stage explains the initial stunned looks, the slow blinking, the repeated glances between you and others present. They're doing perceptual error checking before accepting that what seemed to happen actually happened. Some people move into second stage, category search. Once they've accepted that perception was accurate, they attempt to classify what occurred using existing mental categories. Was it luck? Skill they didn't know you possessed? Trick they don't understand? Collaboration with others they didn't notice? They're running through every explanation framework they have, testing whether what you did fits into any familiar pattern. This stage produces the furrowed brows, the head tilts, the expressions suggesting intense mental work. They're discovering that none of their existing categories adequately contain what occurred. It was too controlled to be luck, too novel to be familiar skill, too transparent to be trick, too individual to be collaboration. The category search is failing, forcing them into deeper processing. Others reach third stage, assumption examination. When familiar categories fail, people are forced to question the assumptions that generated those categories. They're asking themselves deeper questions. What did I believe was impossible that I just saw happen? What limits did I assume that just got exceeded? What rules did I think constrained reality that apparently don't? This stage is psychologically uncomfortable because it requires admitting previous understanding was incomplete or wrong. Some people resist this stage, preferring to remain confused rather than acknowledge their worldview needs updating. But most eventually, accept that what you did demands reconsidering their basic assumptions about capability and possibility. A few are entering fourth stage, framework reconstruction. This is where they actually rebuild their understanding to accommodate what you demonstrated. They're not just adding new information to existing structure, they're restructuring the foundation to support expanded conception of what's possible. This reconstruction is intensive cognitive work that produces the longest pauses. They're literally thinking differently after this stage than before. Their updated framework has different boundaries, different categories, different rules than the framework they started with. The silence during this stage is evidence of deep learning occurring, of genuine transformation in understanding rather than superficial addition of facts. The architects observe that paradigm update sequence explains why some people take longer to respond than others. Speed through the sequence depends on cognitive flexibility. People with rigid frameworks require more time for reconstruction than people comfortable with updating their understanding. It also depends on how thoroughly what you did violated their particular assumptions. If you shattered multiple core beliefs simultaneously, Reconstruction takes longer than if you violated only one belief. The varying lengths of silence around you aren't about varying levels of impression. They're about varying amounts of cognitive restructuring required to integrate what you did into each person's unique framework. Everyone is updating. They're just updating different amounts of mental architecture, depending on how much your action contradicted what they previously believed possible. Something fascinating is spreading through the witnesses now, what the architects call contagious reconstruction, where people who've completed their own cognitive integration are helping others process by sharing their updated frameworks. This accelerates the paradigm update sequence for later processors because they don't have to rebuild understanding entirely from scratch. They can adopt conceptual structures that early processors already constructed, but even this assisted reconstruction takes time, and the process creates interesting dynamics where the silence is breaking unevenly across the group, producing waves of realization rather than sudden collective response. Watch how the first people to complete processing behave. They're not immediately vocal. They're testing their new understanding by observing you more carefully, checking whether their updated framework accurately predicts or explains other aspects of your behavior. They're essentially validating their cognitive reconstruction before committing to it publicly. Once satisfied that their new understanding is stable, they begin carefully articulating it to others still processing. These early articulators become crucial nodes in the network because they provide language and concepts for experiences that others are having but haven't yet verbalized. Some people who are struggling with their own reconstruction experience relief when early articulators share frameworks that make sense of what happened. Oh, that's what I'm trying to process. The fact that framework description allows them to accelerate through stages by adopting pre-built conceptual structures rather than constructing from scratch. This social dimension of cognitive integration explains why small groups process faster than isolated individuals. Collective processing generates shared frameworks that individuals can adopt or adapt, rather than each person independently reinventing understanding. Others resist the frameworks that early processors offer because those frameworks conflict with beliefs they're not ready to abandon. They're still in assumption examination stage, but haven't yet accepted that their assumptions need updating. When someone offers framework that requires accepting new assumptions, they reject the framework as wrong or exaggerated rather than using it to complete their own reconstruction. This resistance extends their silence because they're stuck in cognitive dissonance, unable to integrate what they witnessed using old frameworks, but unwilling to adopt new frameworks being offered. They'll remain silent until they either construct their own updated framework or become willing to accept frameworks others provide. A few people are experiencing meta-awareness about the process itself. They're recognizing not just that what you did was extraordinary, but that their own cognitive struggle to process it reveals something about themselves. They're having insights like the fact that I'm having trouble categorizing. This shows I've been thinking too rigidly, or my difficulty processing this reveals assumptions I didn't know I had. This metacognitive awareness transforms the processing experience from passively receiving new information to actively learning about their own mental architecture. They're gaining not just new understanding of your capabilities, but new understanding of their own cognitive limits and biases. The architects observe that contagious reconstruction creates cascading effect where each person who completes processing makes it easier for others to complete. The silence breaks progressively rather than all at once, creating rolling wave of articulation as more people reach stable, updated frameworks and begin sharing them. What started as universal pause is becoming distributed conversation, where people at different stages of processing are helping each other complete the paradigm update sequence. But even with social assistance, the fact that significant processing time is required reveals magnitude of what you did. You didn't just do something impressive within existing paradigms. You did something that forces paradigm expansion. Reality paused because reality needed major update to accommodate what you demonstrated possible. Now the architects are revealing something that explains why your specific action triggered such profound processing delay. You didn't just exceed expectations. You violated what epistemologists call confidence barriers. These are thresholds where people are so certain something is impossible that evidence of it happening gets initially rejected or misprocessed rather than immediately integrated. The cognitive integration delay around you is partly because you didn't just surprise people. You did something they were confident couldn't be done, forcing them to process not just new information, but the meta-level realization that their confidence was misplaced about something they felt certain about. Consider the psychology of confidence barriers. When people are mildly uncertain about limits, I don't think that's possible, but I could be wrong. New information updates their understanding relatively smoothly, but when people are deeply certain, I know for a fact that's impossible. Evidence contradicting that certainty triggers defensive processing rather than open integration. They've invested psychological resources in their certainty, built other beliefs on top of it, used it to make decisions. Accepting they were wrong about something they felt certain about requires not just updating one belief, but potentially revising many connected beliefs that depended on the foundational certainty. This extensive revision takes significant processing time. Watch what people do when confronting violated confidence barriers. Initially, many attempt to preserve their certainty by reinterpreting what they witnessed. It must have been alternative explanation that preserves impossibility. They're trying to defend their confidence rather than update it, because updating is psychologically costly. Only when alternative explanations are exhausted do they reluctantly accept that their certainty was wrong, that what they were confident was impossible actually is possible. This reluctant acceptance triggers the deep processing required to rebuild understanding. Without the foundational certainty they'd relied on, some people are experiencing something like grief during this process. Grief for their lost certainty, for their previous understanding of reality, for the simpler world where limits they believed in actually existed. This emotional dimension of cognitive restructuring adds to the processing time. They're not just thinking through logical implications, they're processing emotional reactions to discovering they were wrong about something fundamental. The silence includes both cognitive work and emotional work as they adapt to expanded reality where their previous confidence barriers are revealed as merely assumptions rather than actual constraints. Others are discovering that their violated confidence barriers were supporting multiple other beliefs, like removing load-bearing wall in building. Removing one certainty creates instability in connected beliefs that also need reconstruction. They believed X was impossible, and that impossibility supported beliefs Y and Z. Now that you've demonstrated X is possible, they need to reconsider Y and Z as well. This cascade of reconsidering makes the cognitive integration delay longer because they're not just processing one violated belief, but entire network of connected beliefs that depended on it. A few people are experiencing what philosophers call epistemic humility induction. They're learning through your action, not just that this specific thing is possible, but that they should be more uncertain generally about what they think they know is impossible. They're updating not just their object level beliefs about capabilities, but their meta-level confidence in their own certainty. This is profound learning that extends beyond your specific action to influence how they'll approach claims about limits in the future. They're becoming more epistemically humble, more willing to consider possibilities that violate their intuitions, more skeptical of their own certainty about impossibility. The architects observe that confidence barrier. Violation explains why your action produced longer processing delay than mere excellence would produce. If you'd done something everyone believed was possible, but extremely difficult, people would process, wow, they're more capable than I realized, relatively quickly. But you did something people were confident was impossible, forcing them to process, my understanding of possible versus impossible was wrong, which requires reconstructing foundations rather than adjusting parameters. The reality pause is proportional to the depth of reconstruction required, and confidence barrier violations require the deepest reconstruction because they invalidate not just beliefs, but certainty about beliefs. The architects are now analyzing what happens as people begin emerging from their processing pause, and they're identifying what they call post-integration response diversity. The responses people generate after completing cognitive integration are wildly varied depending on what frameworks they constructed during processing. Some people emerge with awe, some with fear, some with excitement, some with denial. This diversity reveals that what you did was so unprecedented that there's no consensus interpretation. Each person builds different understanding during reconstruction, leading to genuinely different conclusions about what your action means. Watch the responses from people who integrated your action as expansion of human potential. They're emerging with excitement and inspiration. If you can do what seemed impossible, maybe they can exceed their own perceived limits. They're treating your action as proof that humans generally have more capacity than we assume, that limits are more flexible than we believe, that what seems impossible might just be unexplored. These people become evangelists for expanded possibility, sharing their interpretation enthusiastically and trying to help others see your action as inspiration rather than threat. They're not threatened by what you did. They're liberated by it. Some people integrated your action as revelation of your unique capability rather than expanded human potential generally. They're emerging with awe directed specifically at you rather than at possibilities in general. They see you as exceptional, individual who can do things most humans can't, rather than as example of what humans can do. This interpretation protects their sense of normal limits by categorizing you as outlier. They don't need to reconsider their own potential because they're not in your category. These people treat you with special reverence or distance, seeing you as fundamentally different rather than as extreme example of shared humanity. Others integrated your action as threat to their status or self-concept. If what you did expands the boundaries of possible, their own achievements might be less impressive by comparison. Their excuses for not attempting certain things might be less valid. Their position in hierarchies might be threatened. They're emerging with various defensive responses, downplaying what you did, finding reasons why it doesn't count, emphasizing factors that make your action less threatening to their self-image. They're not consciously trying to diminish you. Necessarily, they're protecting their psychological equilibrium from implications of what you demonstrated. A few people are integrating your action as evidence of reality being different than they thought at fundamental levels. They're not just updating beliefs about capabilities, they're questioning their entire ontology, wondering if physical laws are what they thought, considering whether reality has properties science hasn't discovered, exploring whether consciousness or will or intention have powers conventional materialism denies. Your action has triggered existential or metaphysical questioning that extends far beyond the specific thing you did. These people emerge from processing in exploratory philosophical mode, asking deep questions about nature of reality. The architects observe that post-integration response diversity creates interesting social dynamics where people who witnessed the same event develop incompatible interpretations of what it meant. Some see expanded human potential, some see unique exception. Some see threat. Some see metaphysical mystery. These different interpretations lead to different responses to you. Inspiration seekers want proximity. Exception makers want distance. Threatened people want diminishment. Mystery explorers want investigation. The silence is breaking into multiple divergent responses rather than consensus. Reaction because what you did was so far outside normal parameters that each person's reconstruction produced genuinely different framework for understanding it. Reality didn't just pause, it fractured into multiple different realities as different people rebuilt different understandings of what's possible. Now something's emerging that the architects call temporal aftershock effect. Even as people break their silence and begin responding, they're continuing to process at deeper levels, experiencing delayed realizations that trigger secondary pauses and updated responses. The cognitive integration isn't complete when people first speak. It's an ongoing process that continues for days or weeks as implications unfold and connections become apparent. You're watching people have their first response, then pause again as new realization hits, then offer revised response incorporating the new understanding. The reality pause wasn't single discrete event, it's ongoing series of pauses as your action continues, generating cognitive aftershocks. Watch people who responded confidently, initially then pause, again as deeper implications hit. They thought they'd processed what you did, generated stable understanding, formed coherent response. Then hours or days later, they realize additional implications they missed, connections to other domains they didn't initially see, ways your action changes things they thought were unrelated. These delayed realizations trigger new processing, pauses, mini versions of the original pause as they integrate new layers of understanding. Some people go through multiple cycles of response pause, deeper response, as they continue unpacking what your action revealed. Some people are experiencing what psychologists call sleeper effect, realizations, implications that weren't apparent during initial processing but emerge later through unconscious cognitive work. They'll be doing something unrelated when suddenly insight about your action surfaces. Oh, if that's possible, then this other thing I've been assuming can't be done might actually be possible. 2. These spontaneous insights trigger new pauses as they process the newly recognized implications. Your action is continuing to reshape their thinking days after the initial event through these delayed fuse realizations. Others are discovering implications through conversations with people who processed differently. Someone shares their interpretation, and the listener suddenly sees aspects they'd completely missed in their own processing. I hadn't thought about it that way at all. Triggers new processing cycle as they integrate the alternative framework with their own. These social triggers of delayed processing create ongoing distributed network of people helping each other discover additional layers of what your action revealed. The processing is becoming deeper and richer through collective exploration rather than remaining at individual first impression level. A few people are having what they describe as paradigm shift experiences, moments where their entire worldview suddenly reorganizes around new understanding triggered by your action. These aren't just belief updates, but gestalt shifts where everything looks different from new perspective. They report experiencing reality differently after these shifts, seeing possibilities they were blind to before, noticing constraints they'd accepted as inevitable were actually optional, recognizing patterns they'd missed completely. Your action served as catalyst for these shifts, but the shifts extend far beyond just understanding what you did. They're transforming entire perceptual and conceptual frameworks. The architects observed that temporal aftershock effect means the full impact of what you did won't be apparent for a significant time period. The immediate responses people generate are preliminary, based on quick integration that captures obvious implications. The deeper More transformative responses emerge later as people continue processing at unconscious levels, discover implications through conversations, experience paradigm shifts triggered by your action. Reality didn't just pause once, it's continuing to pause, intermittently as aftershocks ripple through cognitive systems, each aftershock producing new realizations and revised understanding. What you did isn't a single event that gets processed and finished, it's ongoing catalyst for continuous cognitive reconstruction that will continue, generating pauses and realizations potentially for months or years as full implications continue unfolding.